Good evening and welcome to the Daily Report. Tonight we tell you all the stories that are making headlines in the country, including femicide, while the president has now set aside 100 million for that cause. And we also have the Ukrainian ambassador to Kenya here within the studio. We're going to be touching base with him. And later on, tomorrow, we're going to be having the State of the Nation address. We want to touch base with legislators. We want to know what exactly the president is going to tell us. This and much more on the Daily Report. Let's have the highlights. Tonight, President William Ruto pledges 100 million Kenyan shillings for the Safe Home, Safe Space campaign to combat rising cases of femicide during the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence.
I urge every Kenyan to join in this movement, to speak out, to educate, and to stand united against femicide.
Also tonight, at least 7 people killed, others injured in a fire incident in Kitui slums Pumwani. The cause of the inferno is yet to be established. Plus, EACC grills Moi University Vice-Chancellor Professor Isaac Kosgei in the ongoing probe over corruption allegations. So far, 59 statements have been recorded. And religious leaders mount pressure to President William Ruto ahead of his State of the Nation address in Parliament tomorrow.
What President Ruto needs today than ever before is to build a trust with the Kenyan people. The trust deficit has actually widened, and if not careful, it's going to be widened more.
Welcome once again to this live broadcast. My name is Hibaq. On sign language interpretation tonight is Kelvin Makori. To start us off, the national government has set aside 100 million shillings to dealing with the growing femicide concerns in the country. This in the spirit of the 16 days global campaign against gender-based violence. Speaking alongside women leaders, including the president's advisor on women rights, Honorable Harriet Chigai, the president emphasized the urgent need to protect the lives and dignity of women, terming the rising cases of femicide tragic and a crisis that calls for immediate and first-hand intervention.
President William Ruto has once again pronounced himself on the rising cases of femicide in the country, committing 100 million shillings towards the Safe Home, Safe Space campaign that seeks to end femicide cases across the country.
This campaign will have the full support of my administration, and we are committing Kenya shillings 100 million for the Safe Home, Safe Spaces campaign and for the next 16 days of activism. And these women leaders will lead the way.
Speaking at State House, Nairobi, after an engagement with women leaders, the president said that through the Women's Rights Advisor, the government has launched the Safe Home, Safe Space campaign as part of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, a campaign targeted at shunning gender-based violence.
As we approach the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, the women leaders standing here have agreed to embark on a nationwide awareness campaign to confront this vice head-on.
He reiterated the government's commitment to backing policy-driven conversations that will put an end to the vice which has resurfaced in recent months. The president equally underlined cases where women are targeted by criminals on social media platforms, beseeching all citizens to engage in the social space with utmost caution.
Our women are made aware of the dangers they face, especially when they engage with strangers, when they engage with people in social media, in strange places, with strangers. It endangers their lives and it weakens their ability to be able to extricate themselves.
This as he called on the law enforcement sector to swiftly execute its mandate and bring culprits to book. While sending condolences to families who have lost loved ones to femicide, the head of state appealed to Kenyans to join the campaign that begins on the 25th of November and help the government sensitize against the heinous acts of gender-based violence.
I send my condolences on those of these leaders standing here with me to those who are in pain today because of these tragic events.
President William Ruto has vowed to use the criminal justice system and other government entities to address the rising concern of femicide in the country. Alongside female leaders, the president has declared that femicide has no space in the Kenyan society, calling on the Kenyans to join hands with the government to make it a safe space for the girls. Reporting for TV47, I'm Linda Alela.
Thank you, Linda. An inferno in Nairobi's expansive Kitui village Pumwani neighborhood has called the lives of at least 7 people on Tuesday night, leaving at least 10 other people, mostly men, hurt and hospitalized. 3 children, including their father, were among the victims who lost their lives in the incident, which police say the cause is yet to be established. Mike Kagwongo now tells us more.
At least 7 people were killed in a devastating fire that ravaged Kitui village in Nairobi's Pumwani area late Tuesday night, leaving residents in mourning. Metrine Muhonja recounts how her late husband arrived earlier than usual from his border job to take a nap before returning for work. No sooner had she left her room to take care of other duties than she heard neighbors screaming for help following a suspected fire tragedy.
Familia yangu iko nawapenda sana. Iko nawapenda. Mzaki hata yameambia
her helpless breadwinner had perished from the raging fire holding her 1-year-old child and surrounded by their 4-year-old and 6-year-old children.
Wameshikilia hivi. Na aka kangine kamekufa, babake ameinama hivi. Amekufa amemwacha, ako kangine kalifunikwa na manguo.
More than 50 houses were flattened in the incident, which reportedly left many homeless, with Nairobi Police Boss Adamson Bungei saying they were investigating the cause of the fire.
Kidogo kufika hapo nikakuta bibi yake anaanguka. Kamuuliza, kwa nini mbaya? Niambia bwana yangu na watoto wote wanaonekana wanachomekea kwa nyumba. Kamwambia bwana alikuwa ameshakuja
Kakuja akaenda kapiga nduru, nikaanguka chini, na huyo baba huyo mwanaume mwenye bibi yake ameaga na mtoto. Akanishikilia akaniambia Maisufu tulia.
According to the Kenya Red Cross, at least 16 people were treated with minor injuries as efforts to find missing persons continued into the night. The phenomenon is an indicative of a larger pattern of fire-related issues in Nairobi's informal settlements, where emergency services report responding to fire incidents on a regular basis. A major obstacle to prompt emergency response is the absence of accessible roadways, which makes the situation even worse. This tragedy brings to attention the challenges faced by these densely populated areas across the city, with residents now calling on government to chip in and control the spacing, not only here in Pumwani slum, but across all the slums in the city. This is in an effort to avoid future atrocities like this one. Mike Kagwongo, TV47, Nairobi.
Our condolences to the affected families. Now, President William Ruto will tomorrow deliver his State of the Nation address before a joint sitting of the 2 houses of Parliament, the first under the broad-based administration. The president's address comes at a time Kenyans are in an uproar due to crisis hit key sectors of the economy, among them the Social Health Authority and the education sectors. Apollo Kamau reports on a day the opposition and the religious sector told the president to listen to the people and speak the truth.
President William Ruto's State of the Nation address before a joint sitting of the two houses of parliament, the first under the broad-based government, after Gen Zs invaded parliament and after the impeachment of Rigathi Gachagua, affords himself an opportunity to regain Kenyans' trust or risk isolation and become a one-term president.
What President Ruto needs today than ever before is to build a trust with the Kenyan people. The trust deficit has actually widened, and if not careful, it's going to be widened more. You need to have it fixed. There should be a difference between politics and governance.
We expect that the president in his address tomorrow should capture some of these undertones and handle them as a father of the nation, and handle them as a leader elected, and handle them as somebody who is seeing the future in these Gen Zs, not killing them, not abducting them, not maiming them.
At the core of the president's speech is how to navigate the current crisis affecting key sectors of the economy dear to Kenyan survival, among them the Social Health Authority in the health docket, which has seen Kenyans stranded in hospitals, education sector which has been rocked by strikes, and the problematic competency-based curriculum CBC, the rising wave of abductions, the pending reconstitution of IEBC, overtaxation of Kenyans, corruption, and high cost of living.
Let him just identify 2-3 things that are at the core of every Kenyan, that every Kenyan feels should be done now, and make sure that those things are working. And I know he can. So that's what I think he needs to really to do, so that he doesn't spread himself thinly to an extent that at the end of the day, we are going to see him, or Kenyans are going to see him as someone who has failed to perform.
The president should just listen to Kenyans. That is number one. Number two is that the president should regard other voices, whether dissenting or supportive voices, to be voices that add to his skills in leadership. Number three is that the president should learn to listen to us, not to respond, but to understand what we are saying.
Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka has dismissed Thursday's State of the Nation address, terming it as a moment that Kenyans will once again be subjected to half-truths and outright lies. Kalonzo adds the address will be another annual moment to hear meaningless promises about new projects.
The president should change tactic, or else the population that said we support you can have another alternative in your presence just because of your negligence. Please just listen to the people and do the right thing.
President Ruto, who won the presidency courtesy of the evangelical vote and hustlers, faces a litmus test after the church and Gen Zs protested his 2-year stint in power. Apul Kamau, TV47.
Thank you, Apollo. Now, the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, EACC, says it is investigating allegations of corruption and theft of public funds at Moi University. Vice-Chancellor Professor Isaac Kizza was grilled by the detectives in Eldoret today. The commission further adding that it has recorded 59 statements so far, as George Muranga now reports.
EACC has today interviewed and recorded a statement from the University Vice-Chancellor Professor Isaac Kizza just days after TV47 highlighted the errors at the university. So far, EACC has recorded 59 statements.
We've had a cordial interaction with EACC. This is not the first time that we are collaborating with EACC. In 2022, we had a collaboration to look at our systems and processes, a report that we are implementing at the moment. On this matter, EACC invited me. This is an independent commission, as you are aware, and I came because of that invitation.
In addition, the commission has summoned 4 members of the University Council believed to be in possession of crucial information to aid the investigation.
So we've had a very nice interaction, we have clarified issues, and we say thank you to them for that opportunity to clarify whatever issues that were there.
The Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission EACC says it commenced investigations in June 2024 upon receipt of a report that senior management officials in Moi University had, in collusion with private consultants, hatched a scheme for illicit enrichment through fraudulent and irregular multi-million tender awards for major development projects. It was further alleged that in the implementation of its development projects, Moi University irregularly procures private consultants known as Hibaq consultants at exorbitant costs, deliberately avoiding the free services of existing government professionals from the Ministry of Public Works. Notably, Hibaq consultants, which have been engaged by the university over the last 7 years, are reported to have been aiding top university officials to execute corruption scams embedded infrastructural projects. George Maringa, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, George. Members of Parliament through the Mediation Committee have reached a consensus on the revenue allocation for devolved units, proposing 387 billion Kenyan shillings for the financial year 2024 to 2025. The Mediation Committee, chaired by Ndindi Nyoro and Senator Ali Roba, increased the allocation by 2 billion shillings compared to the previous financial year, citing harsh economic times. Our senior political reporter Elizabeth Mutuku followed the sitting and filed the following report.
Onto page 2. After days of stalemate over the Division of Revenue Bill 2024, which threatened to plug counties into deeper cash crunch, finally the Mediation Committee has deal for counties to receive 387 billion shillings for the financial year 2024-2025.
Got the last financial year of 385 billion, and on top of that, we have made and provisioned additional resources of Kenya shillings 2 billion to make our counties perform their duties efficiently.
On one issue, the cognizance of the fact that we are going on recess in 2 weeks, and we also have to pass CARA within the same 2 weeks in order to make sure we facilitate the funds flow to counties.
The consensus was after a heated debate in a sitting which took over 4 hours, with senators raising issues, with National Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi's adamant stand that Exchequer will only release 380 billion shillings to counties. Mediation co-chair and Kiharu Member of Parliament Ndindi Nyoro insisted that the executive had a primary role in the budget-making process. According to Nyoro, the final consensus on the matter requires keen consideration of President's input, a statement which angered senators, leading to the session taking a 30 minutes break.
But if you check the last mediations, Honorable Senator, you see that this kind of mediations have even, not this one, some have actually been done through lobbying in State House itself, not this current regime. I'm just trying to say that this is not peculiar. Parliament. We should dissolve Parliament. Let Mbadi make all the decisions he wants to make on the money that he wants to send wherever. What is the point of us sitting here? And Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, at least for you, you have the luxury of being invited to State House. I am persona non grata at State House. I'm not going to go to State House. To do what? I personally believe that even as members of Parliament, you being summoned to State House, you are subserving yourselves to an institution that you observe and oversight. That is being collected in this country. Then you dare tell me that my job is to come here and take 20 billion shillings only out of the kitty that we need, when you've kept 3.2 trillion shillings for the national government, for the executive. How dare you?
Even with the green light for the counties, the next task for the legislators in both houses is to push for the disbursement of 387 billion shillings to the counties, and will require to marshal 2/3 of both houses to amend the Division of Revenue Bill 2024. Counties had threatened to shut down over delay in the disbursement. However, Kilifi County Governor Gideon Mungaru has confirmed that his county county has already received the money that will be used to pay salaries, allowances and pending bills.
Suppliers wote kwa sababu najua wamekuwa na muda bila pesa, si makosa yangu ama ya serikali ya county. Tumekuwa na uhaba wa pesa, lakini zile zimekuja tutahakikisha kwamba tunagusa watu wengi zaidi, hasa wale watu wadogo wadogo.
County staff in too many counties have had to go months without salaries. Elizabeth Mutuko, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Liza. The Kenya National Commission on Human Rights cautions the country is drawing back to the dark days of its history due to the witnessed and recorded rising cases of abduction and enforced disappearances. The Commission is reported to have documented 1,376 arbitrary arrests, as well as 610 cases of injuries from June the 18th to November of this year. Moi William with the details.
Hours to the State of the Nation address by President William Ruto before Parliament, the National Commission on Human Rights issued the state of the human rights in Kenya for the past 18 months, summarizing it by telling the government it's time it must be keen in placing development projects without infringing on the living standards of the citizenry. The National Human Rights Commission taking issues with the government's conduct during the Anti-Finance Bill 2024 protest, pointing to rising cases of abduction and enforced disappearances, cautioning it was an affront to the human rights tenets that the country ascribes to.
The daring happenings recorded on videos and photographs are some even displaying civilian and security agent number plates, are rapidly taking the country back to the dark days of our history.
KNCHR details that since June 18th, the Commission has documented 1,376 arbitrary arrests as well as 610 cases of injuries. Most of the injuries reported to have been inflicted by security officers against the protesters.
These injuries were sustained in the course of the demonstrations and ranged from deep fractures, bullet wounds, soft tissue injuries, and inhalation of tear gas.
The Commission has also differed with figures issued by the National Police Service on forced disappearances, indicating 74 cases of enforced disappearances in the period between June and November 2024, out of which 26 people are still missing. Separately, the Kenya Human Rights Commission indicates that the country is heading in the wrong direction, attributing the state of affairs to a president who does not listen to his people.
A government that destroys the economy at home so that it can focus on pushing Kenyans out of the country, whereas its ministers and high-level officials are displaying opulence and arrogance, is concerning.
Mr. Ruto and the political class stop meddling and frustrating independent institutions responsible for investigation, prosecution, hearing and determination of corruption and human rights cases.
The two organizations have reiterated the need of the government to uphold the constitution, the rule of law, and serve the interests of the people. Moi William, TV47.
Thank you, William. Uganda's opposition leader Kizza Besigye, who was allegedly abducted in an apartment in Nairobi's Riverside area on Saturday, appeared in the General Court-Martials in Kampala today. Kenyan opposition leaders led in mounting pressure for the release of Besigye, who was in the country to attend the launch of Martha Karua's book. Samira Mohammed now reports.
Ugandan opposition figure Kizza Besigye was allegedly abducted at an apartment in Nairobi's Riverside area on Saturday. The 68-year-old opposition leader landed in Nairobi's JKIA and boarded a taxi to a hotel in Nairobi's Hurlingham area a few hours before taking a taxi to an apartment in 108 Riverside, where he was allegedly abducted by the Ugandan forces. And on Wednesday, the longtime critic of President Yoweri Museveni was presented in the General Court-Martial in the Ugandan capital under heavy armed military escort, where he was charged of possessing 2 pistols and soliciting logistical support in Uganda, Greece and other countries with the aim of compromising the country's national security. Wednesday morning, Besigye's wife Winnie Banyima took to her ex account to demand the immediate release of her husband. Mother Karua was among Kenyans who pushed for the release of Besigye, accusing the Kenyan government of the abduction. However, Kenya has dismissed claims of its involvement in the alleged abduction of Kizza Besigye. Foreign Affairs Principal Secretary Moi University clarified that Kenya has no part in Besigye's reported arrest or deportation.
Attend Martha Karua's book launch and speak as a guest speaker. And his driver, when they came to pick him, they waited, and despite several calls, were not able to get him. And also the message that was posted by the wife that he had since been abducted by the Ugandan forces, and he was picked up from the Kenyan jurisdiction.
These, as the Law Society of Kenya and the Kenya National Commission for Human Rights has strongly condemned the alleged abduction of the prominent Ugandan opposition figure.
We are a country that respects the rule of law and human rights, that this is a dangerous precedent that we are picking up. As a nation and as a country, we should not be seen as the haven to break laws, the haven that any person who may be within our jurisdiction, we have opened a wide berth for them to be picked up.
Samira Mohammed for TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Samira. The State Department for Housing and Urban Development has called on the banking institutions to help the Affordable Housing Board develop and deliver the affordable housing project to Kenyans by allowing every Kenyan to take home loans with their institutions, including the Mama Mboga, as Anastasia Mukabi now reports.
One of the issues that the president is expected to address during his State of the Nation address on Thursday at Parliament is the progress of the affordable housing program, a project that is so close to his heart. This, the State Department for Housing and Urban Development held a meeting with the banking institutions to urge them to open doors for all Kenyans to take mortgage loans.
Please do not turn down any Kenyan who comes to your institution looking for a mortgage because traditionally you say they are unbankable. All these efforts that we have put together, all these monies that we have been collecting from Kenyans has got to go towards that particular exercise.
In a bid to save the levy money and construct more homes, the Affordable Housing Board took up the decision to let buyers purchase products with the financial institutions and face consequences from the institutions in case of a financial default.
We separate the board and the buyer from that process so that the buyer is dealing with financial institutions, so that they also know that the consequence of non-repayment is you're also dealing with a financial institution.
Bankers embrace this action, saying that they are ready to assist Kenyans in owning homes under the Affordable Housing Program.
We are happy even to be able to expand this to all Kenyans across board, as long as you have an income, either employed, either in self-employed or in consultancy. We are able to support Kenyans to be able to own homes.
In order to guarantee that homeowners would receive title deeds, the Housing PS Charles Hinga has given the financial institutions the award that they are collaborating with multi-sectoral departments to develop title deeds. Anastasia Mkabi, TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Anastasia, for that story. And on that note, we go for a very short break. When we come back, we want to touch on Ukraine and its relation to Kenya. We already have in studio the ambassador of Ukraine. He's just going to be telling us how exactly Kenya is touching on Ukraine and Ukraine is touching on Kenya. But we go for a very short break. That is when we come back. Don't go too far. We'll be right back.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwa watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
Welcome back to the Daily Report. 1,000 days of war between Ukraine and Russia has had geopolitical effects throughout different continents and even here in Africa. In Kenya, we have been affected as well because usually when things happen on one end of the globe, it affects the other end as well. When it comes to trade, the economy, all of these things are touched. In studio tonight, I have the ambassador of Ukraine to Kenya, Andriy Pravednik, who is just going to be telling us how exactly Kenya is relating with Ukraine and how the war is ongoing there. Maybe if you could just start by telling us, you're the best person to tell us how exactly this war has gone on, the effect it has had on the Ukrainian people, and maybe even Kenya. If you could just tell us.
Good evening. It's my pleasure and honor to be here today. And I would start from, repeating what you just said, that yesterday we marked the 1,000 days of Ukraine fight for its territorial integrity and sovereignty. The scale of the Russian aggression, which started, the scale of Russian invasion, which started on the 24th February 2022, is unprecedented in the recent history.
Right.
And the reason why I've actually, in a way, rectified what I said before is that the Russian aggression started in February 2014 when Russian Federation started occupation of Ukrainian peninsula Crimea, which is considered part of Ukraine according to all international documents approved by UN General Assembly. And we continue to fight. Russians are trying to build up additional troops, but we are fighting for our independence, for our survival as a nation.
Right.
I would use this opportunity to give a couple examples of that scale of Russian invasion and destruction caused by Russians. More than 150,000 apartment blocks had been destroyed completely. More than 4,000 schools has been destroyed. 3,500 hospitals have been fully destroyed. And that nightmare started by Russians continue. We hope that with support we have from the many countries of the world, including Kenya, we will be able to continue our fight for a good cause.
Right.
And that cause is our independence and our territorial integrity and sovereignty.
Right. Ambassador, the incoming US President Trump did say that he wants a swift end to this war. What exactly does that mean for Ukraine and the larger global scene?
I would start from saying that Ukraine was always supported all efforts of our partners and friends, including the United States, to help us to withstand Russian invasion. And we always enjoy bipartisan support in the United States. It's probably too premature to say what plan President Trump might have and bring for consideration. But from our side, I can share our views that this peace plan is very simple. If Russian troops will go out of Ukraine, will come back to Russia, that will be the start of the peace. It's a very simple recipe. The only problem we face, and the international community face, is that Russian Federation is not willing to stop this war. They're not willing to bring long-lasting and just peace to Ukraine. And as we all know, quite recently, President Putin again stated that what he calls special military operation will reach its goals. And the goals, as they've been stated before, are really ridiculous. I can even use that word because the goals of that so-called special military operation is to denazify and demilitarize Ukraine. And we all see that in real life, it's not Ukraine, but rather Russian forces commit war crimes on the territory of Ukraine, and they're acting as Nazis used to act during the World War II.
Right, Ambassador, we have seen just yesterday, Ukraine had launched, missiles into Russia. What would you say this is? Is it defensive? And what sort of, repercussion or action is going to come from Russia?
Let me start from stating that for last almost 900 days, out of 1,000 days, we are fighting. Russians send their missiles and their drones to Ukraine every single night. For last more than 60 days, okay, there was no single night when Russians haven't sent their missiles or their drones to destroy Ukrainian cities, towns and villages and kill Ukrainian civilians. We sent our drones and missiles exclusively on military targets, and that makes a difference between us and Russians, because Russians mainly target civilian infrastructure, our energy infrastructure, our hospitals, schools, our civilian population. We actually never done so, and we are not going to do so. We only target military installations because Ukraine actually respect the rules of international law, which clearly prohibit the use of military force against civilians and civilian infrastructure.
Ambassador, you said it's very important to have the support of different countries when it comes to this particular war, because it will help in ending it more justly, right? What can Kenya do in this regard to help maybe even end this war?
Definitely Kenya already done a lot. We are really grateful to Kenya for being a strong supporter of Ukraine within the international organizations. And I can tell you that all Ukrainians who are interested in international relations, in global issues, they remember the statement of the then permanent representative of Kenya to the United Nations, Martin Kimani, the second day of the start of Russian invasion, when he clearly stated that Kenya would not tolerate such actions as Russia undertook. And it's a clear violation of international law and UN Charter. For that, Ukrainians are really grateful to Kenya and to particularly to Martin Kimani. But Kenya didn't limit itself by just the statement within the UN Security Council, because at that time Kenya was no permanent member of UN Security Council. But also Kenya voted for almost every resolution presented by Ukraine within the United Nations General Assembly, in particular for resolutions for the respect of human rights in Crimea, for the resolution of of territorial integrity of Ukraine, and the resolution for bringing long-lasting peace to Ukraine.
Right.
And what is more important for us is that Kenya took part in the first Global Peace Summit, which took place on the 15th and 16th of June this year in Burgenstock in Switzerland. And even more, His Excellency President Ruto not just took part in that summit as the leader of your country, but he also chaired one of the panels, and in particular the panel on food security, together with the World Food Programme.
Right.
And we are really grateful to Kenya and to President Ruto for being so proactive in trying to bring long-lasting and just peace to Ukraine.
Right.
And now we're working on the second Global Peace Summit. There is no fixed date yet, and we're still working on the date and place where the summit would take place.
Ambassador, maybe if I could just interject a little bit. Let's talk about bilateral ties, because it's really important to highlight that. When it comes to importation and exportation, trade ties are very important between countries. We do know that Ukraine usually exports grain, and Kenya has been a beneficiary of this particular exportation. When exactly or how exactly can we re-establish this so that we can have better bilateral ties?
Definitely. We were happy before the invasion that our trade ties with Kenya are grown very fast. Let me give you an example. In 2018, the bilateral trade between Ukraine and Kenya constituted $58 million. In 2022, just 4 years later, it accounted to $123 million US. But then invasion started, and 2022 was a disaster for our bilateral trade relations, since we were not able, especially for the first half of the year 2022, to export almost any single grain from Ukraine, since Russia actually heavily bombarded the port of Odessa, our main seaport and our grain hub, as well as another port, Mykolaiv. And that was the reason why at the first half of 2022 we practically were not able to export grain and other foodstuff to countries in the global south, in Africa, and particularly to Kenya. But thanks to the joint efforts of Ukraine and our partners, we managed to create a special corridor for that ships to be able to export grain. And let me give you figures that in 2023, the Ukrainian-Kenyan trade reached almost $66 million. It's still almost 2 times less than in 22, but it's 70% more than in 2021, and then it's 70% more than in 2022, which gives us a hope that with the pace of time we'll not only be able to reach that figure of 2021, but we will go further, and we actually continue export wheat to Kenya. We also continue to export other food products from Ukraine. But it's not only that, we also have a very good experience in exporting our IT technologies to Kenya. We hope that this year we'll start a project on agricultural techniques and technologies, which really need for Kenya to improve the crop. And we would be happy to share our experiences, because as everyone knows, Ukraine is and will continue to be a breadbasket. We used to be called breadbasket of Europe, but now, we are breadbaskets of, in a wider sense, not only for Europe, but to other continents. And we realize our important role in guaranteeing food security.
Maybe if you could just briefly tell us, Ambassador, we've seen a situation where President Putin has formally lowered the threshold for using nuclear weapons. What is the future of the entire world going forward? What do we see happening?
Definitely what Russia is doing now is a violation, serious violation of all the international rules and regulations. And actually, by doing so, Russia trying to undermine the world order, which is definitely posing a threat not only to Ukraine or to Europe, but to the whole world. Because if Russia succeeds in Ukraine, it will not stop there. And then I am actually convinced that Russia will continue to try to restore what they called Russian Empire. And that means that next on their way might be Moldova, Georgia, or even Baltic states.
Thank you so much, Ambassador, for giving us your valuable insights, considering a lot of people usually don't know what the geopolitical effect of such wars are, especially not only in the global context, in the African context, and even in the Kenyan context. And we look forward to a more peaceful Ukraine so that we can continue enjoying some of these bilateral ties, considering that Kenya does need the grain from Ukraine, and we can even export towards your country. Thank you so much for joining us, Ambassador. But back to the news of the day. The World Health Organization is reporting that for the first time, the elimination of cervical cancer is within our reach. World leaders have been urged to support access to HPV vaccines for all girls in all countries, as well as to enhance access to screening and treatment for all women who need it. Elizabeth Atieno now tells us more.
Every year, over 350,000 women die from cervical cancer and another 660,000 are diagnosed. As a result, children are orphaned, families impoverished, and communities diminished by the loss of mothers, wives, daughters, and sisters. And yet, unlike most other cancers, almost all these cases and deaths can be averted by the use of powerful vaccines like the HPV vaccine. And now, the World Health Organization has confirmed that should all countries embrace these treatment and prevention tools, then cervical cancer could become the first cancer to be eliminated. Some high-income countries are already close to elimination, reporting fewer than 4 cases per 100,000 women. In 2018, WHO launched a global call to action to eliminate cervical cancer, which was followed in 2020 by the adoption by all 194 WHO member states of a global strategy to accelerate the elimination of cervical cancer as a public health problem. The strategy calls for countries to achieve 3 targets by 2030, which is 90% of girls are to be vaccinated against HPV, 70% of women are to be screened, and 90% of those found with precancer or cancer are to be treated. Bhutan has already reached the 90-70-90 targets, the first to do so in the Southeast Asia. Since the introduction of the HPV vaccine in 2011, Rwanda has reached vaccine coverage of 90% and has since announced its national goal to reach the 90-70-90 targets 3 years ahead of schedule by 2027. Nigeria, which introduced the HPV vaccine in October last year, has already vaccinated 12.3 million girls. In Kenya, about 77% of girls have received the first dose, with only 31% receiving the second dose. More than 60 countries have introduced the HPV vaccine into their immunization programs. The largest provider of HPV vaccines to low and middle-income countries is Gavi, which plans to vaccinate 120 million children between now and 2030. The World Health Organization has equally confirmed that several countries are also investigating the use of artificial intelligence to enhance the accuracy of screening in resource-limited settings when women are found with precancerous lesions. Many are now treated with portable battery-powered devices, which can be operated in remote locations. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Still on matters health, the country is intensifying its fight against HIV with efforts of vaccine development as it prepares for World AIDS Day, coming up on December 1st, aiming to reduce infections by 2030. The National Endemic Disease Control Council reveals that men face alarming infection rates, highlighting the urgent need for targeted interventions. And as Anne Odida now reports, this year's celebrations aims to bring men on board as critical contributors in the fight against HIV.
The country is making significant strides in its fight against HIV, including efforts to develop a vaccine that could change the trajectory of the epidemic. The vaccine is still in its experimental phase. It's being tested on HIV-negative individuals to assess immune responses and evaluate its potential to prevent infections.
We are at a very early stage of development, but we have made progress that we deem as quite positive towards our final goal.
Despite progress, the statistics remain alarming. In 2023, approximately 1.3 million people were living with HIV in Kenya, with men accounting for 35% of these cases, equating to 487,710 individuals. Men, particularly those aged 15 to 34 years, are disproportionately affected. Additionally, 8,490 men have died due to HIV-related causes in 2023. Every day, approximately approximately 11 men contract the virus, adding to the burden of 77 new infections weekly.
Although boys and men account for a smaller proportion of number of new infections, they account for a disproportionately high rate of deaths due to HIV, and this is directly linked to health-seeking behavior.
A critical aspect of this year's World AIDS Day campaign is addressing the often overlooked needs of men and boys. For years, HIV programs have focused primarily on women and girls, leaving men underserved and at risk. Societal norms that discourage men from seeking help, coupled with high rates of substance abuse and mental health challenges, have created a cycle of silence and neglect.
There are several trends in data that shows us that men have been left behind. Somehow they are not catching up in the manner that we want them to catch up.
Currently, approximately 89% of those who inject drugs in Kenya are men, with regions like Nakuru seeing a rise in drug-related HIV infections.
The longest time in Kenya, we knew that drug use is only in the coastal region. However, we are being proven wrong by statistics, because we are seeing the trend now in counties that we were not experiencing this before.
This year's National World AIDS Day theme is "It's a Race Against Time," and the focus will shift towards the country's future goals in the fight against HIV. And with new strategies in place, the day will highlight the continued progress made and the urgency of addressing the gaps in public awareness, particularly as the country works towards its 2030 targets. Ann Odida, TV47, Nairobi.
Make sense of shillings and cents in the world of business. Different factions of the government will work towards fiscal consolidation to ease the pending bills burden that is crippling the operations in different public bodies. Treasury Principal Secretary Dr. Chris Kipto is now urging the government officers to avoid unnecessary penalties and bills on expenditure, a sentiment shared by Budget and Appropriation Committee Chair Ndindi Nyoro, who now says prudent cuts where necessary are still underway for a number of government offices. He further notes that the government remains open to strategic partnerships in different bodies for profitability.
We end up getting in dividends, not as much. Why? As Safaricom makes procurement decisions, they look for value for money, for example. I don't think that is the same case with Kenya Power, for example, because it is still under the bureaucracies of government. We need to free these companies so that a company like Kenya Power can still afford to enlist people to sell meters in our shops, in our electrical shops. Now being government, procurement of meters, for example, in Kenya Power becomes national news because it's always swampy. Do we need that? If that company is freed to make independent commercial decisions, they'll make decisions where, if I need a meter, I'll go to an electrical shop, buy a meter, because no one has an interest in it.
We have our tax to GDP ratio was as high as 17% in the year 2013-2014. This has declined to 13%. So we have lost a whole 4% of GDP in terms of tax collections as a percent of our economy, GDP. This is why we are reversing the trend. So we have a national tax policy in place, we have a medium-term revenue strategy, and most of the tax measures that we have presented to Parliament are also sensitive to what we have gotten from the public.
Now, Cooperative Bank is the overall winner of this year's 2024 Sustainable Finance Catalyst Award. Now, the award by the Kenya Bankers Association is the fifth for the lender in 7 years, having won the overall title in 2017, 2019, 2022 and 2023. The awards were created to recognize institutions that practice sustainable finance, which has a direct positive impact on the financial sector, the economy, the environment, and the society at large. Commenting on the recognition, Cooperative Bank Managing Director Dr. Gideon Murioki said that sustainability is fully integrated in the business model that stands on the three pillars of economic sustainability, social sustainability, and environmental stewardship. And Absa Bank is furthering its distribution network in central Kenya, aiming the niche demographic running micro, small and medium enterprises. The bank is now aiming for rapidly growing satellite towns in a broader strategy meant to align the bank's plans for enhanced and convenient services for individuals and businesses in underserved areas.
The launchpad for us into going into servicing small, micro, medium enterprises, personal customers, corporate customers, large businesses, and all financial services that we offer from lending, deposits, savings, insurance products, investments products, credit cards, large business loans, mortgages.
This we aim to achieve by truly understanding your day-to-day needs and creating and delivering value across the entire client relationship.
All right, now we take a short breather. When we come back, we have sports news, and then we're going to be indulging with the Muranga Senator, Joe Nyoto. We want to know how exactly the national address tomorrow is going to go about, what we should be looking forward to, and what Kenyans have been saying about it. Don't go too far. We'll be right back.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Nafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there friends, welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter. Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents. Zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Hey there, friends. Welcome to Kids on the Block, where fun and imagination come alive. We dive into magical world filled with exciting adventures and awesome friends.
What position were you in?
I was number 2.
What position were you?
Number 1.
He decided to cross the bridge by his house and look for food on the other side.
We're going to do half cup of chocolate chips, and the other one, we're going to do half cup of the blueberries.
So, grab your imagination hats and get ready to explore with us. Join us every Saturday at 9 a.m. for new friends, amazing stories, and tons of laughter.
Join us as we explore the journeys of those who defy the odds and break barriers. We dive deep into the stories of triumph.
Sometimes when parenting a child with a special need or whatever disability, family life becomes a bit complicated and you may end up raising the child on your own.
Here, we inspire.
I have a farm which one we showcase with other dyslexic youths and autism, how to farm.
Motivate.
It's never easy, but what we do, the best thing is to work with another parent who has an elder child than yours.
And break through the barriers one story at a time. Push your boundaries beyond the limit. Saturdays at 8 p.m. The Grind, where business meets brilliance. It's not just about the ideas.
I was working as a shampoo boy. I used to wash clients' hair on the sink.
It's about making them happen. From big wins.
In primary school, when we would be asked what people want to be, I was categorical that I want to be a nurse.
To hard lessons.
The consoles change, the gaming equipment keep changing.
We cover it all. Tune in to The Grind, where every episode is packed with insights.
The person who is serving customers, always be a customer-centric.
Strategies.
When you pay attention to detail, you get luxury items.
And stories to fuel your ambition. Don't just dream it, grind it. Mondays at 7:30 p.m.
Jiunge nasi tunapoangazia safari za viongozi bora. Kutoka kwa ushindi mkubwa hadi masomo magumu.
Wakati wetu kwamba wasichana si wa kusoma, ni wa kuolewa, ng'ombe ipatikane, wazazi wakuwe watajiri.
Tunashughulikia yote.
I wish I were a better investor.
My parents taught me how to look for things for myself.
Tazama Mfahamu Kiongozi, ambapo kila kipindi kimejaa maarifa, mikakati na hadithi za kukuza azma yako.
For me to succeed, I have to fight.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30.
Vile unavyojua watoto wengi sana hawana namna. Mimi ningependelea watoto wasome.
I'm here to stress on education. At the same time, let us actually do any kind of sport that we are doing. Sport speaks the best language to everybody.
Tunataka tutafute talents, zile raw talents kutoka kule nyumbani mashinani mahali tuko leo.
Hizi mbio za Chepsaita, like all other sports, zinaleta watu pamoja.
We want to use this event to uplift the lives of the community.
Anafurahia hii mchezo sana. Hata sikaange naambianga watu tuende Chepsaita.
Wanafunzi wakimbie ili wakuze talanta ya mbio ama kuhimiza tena elimu.
This is the place to be. Hapa ndipo mahali wanastahili kuwa tarehe 7. Wale watoto walikimbia last year, wamekimbia mpaka wamefuka mipaka zetu za Kenya.
Very special day. The President, Dr. William Ruto, is going to give his second State of the Nation address, touching on different matters that the Kenya Kwanza government has touched on since taking power. Some of the things that the President is most likely going to highlight is the economy, education, and other sectors that are very, very important for a majority of Kenyans. Now, we've touched base before we even go to our guest of the day, that is Muranga Senator John Yutu. We touched base with Kenyans on what they think the President is going to address and what he is going to address. Let's take a look.
Hajafikia matarajio ya wananchi wa Kenya wakati tulipokuwa tukipigia kura.
kwa sababu wananchi walikuwa wamepiga kura katika hali yakiwa wamekata tamaa, maisha yamekuwa juu sana. Hivi sasa hali ya maisha imekuwa juu sana, tutarajia itapungua, haijapungua, licha kwamba wadau tofauti wamepiga kelele, wamezungumza wale wasiokuwa kwa niaba wale wasiokuwa na sauti, lakini hatujaona serikali imefanya makubwa sana, kwa sababu waliweka agenda katika manifesto yao, na katika zile agenda zao yale mambo walisema watayatekeleza yatakuwa yanachangia kupunguzwa kwa gharama za maisha, lakini mpaka sasa hatujapungua.
Ya kwanza, hakuna kitu imefanya kabisa kabisa kabisa. Na kama ni mambo ya miradi wanatueleza ile miradi Uhuru aliacha. So ni president mwenyewe aangalie jinsi atafanya miradi ambayo tunaiona, si miradi hewa. Kitu ya kwanza, aeleze wananchi kwamba universities hawako shule, na wazazi walitoa pesa watoto wao wakaenda shule, wakaenda kusoma. Saa hii wengi wako nyumbani. Hiyo ni ya kwanza. Ya pili, madaktari, kaunti zote madaktari hawajapewa pesa miezi mitano. Hotuba yake kesho, mimi ningependa sana, ile nataka aongelee ni kuhusu wanafunzi wetu wa university watarudi chuo vipi.
Kiongelea mambo ya SHA ni tofauti na venye wanasema kwamba inafanya kazi na kwa ground haifanyi. Tungependelea kama wananchi aongelee mambo ya uchumi. Uchumi umezorota. Wao wanasema kwamba uchumi uko stable, lakini kwa ground
zote madaktari hawajapewa pesa miezi mitano. Hotuba yake kesho, mimi ningependa sana, ile nataka aongelee ni kuhusu wanafunzi wetu wa university watarudi chuo vipi.
Kiongelea mambo ya SHA ni tofauti na venye wanasema kwamba inafanya kazi na kwa ground haifanyi. Tungependelea kama wananchi aongelee mambo ya uchumi. Uchumi umezorota. Wao wanasema kwamba uchumi uko stable, lakini kwa ground vitu ni different. Mimi niko sure hii story ya ushuru bado atakwepa kuiongelea, na pia ingekuwa ni vizuri pia aongelee story ya SHA, ingekuwa vizuri sana.
All right, quite the sentiments there from Kenyans. Thank you so much for joining us, Senator Nyutu. Of course, having in mind what all those different people said about the president and what he should be addressing tomorrow, do you believe as a leader and as a Kenyan that the president is a listening president?
Thank you, Hibaq, and yes, I know that the president is a listening president because, of course, he is a major consumer of intelligence reports, and I want to believe that he watches, news on TVs and maybe listens to the radio. And of course, there are very many people that advise him. So I should believe he's a good listener. What now I may not be able to maybe confirm or deny is whether then he acts in the way that maybe wananchi would want him to act. And that is why the State of the Nation address then tomorrow would be very important in order for His Excellency the President to prove whether when he listens, whether then he acts on the information that he collects from different sources.
All right, let's look at different aspects of the economy. We have the economy of the pocket and we have the larger economy. When we look at the numbers, they seem to make sense. We have the base rate being 12.75%. We do have the exchange rate stagnating at 129 shillings for the first time in a very long time. And we do have the rate of inflation at 2.7, one of the lowest in decades. However, when it comes to mfuko ya mwananchi, there seems to be a mismatch. Why do you think this is?
Well, probably that is a gigantic economic matter that may need some explanation by trained economists, which I'm not, but as you observe, Hibaq, and I heard the chair of the Budget and Appropriations Committee in the Senate, in the National Assembly the other day, the Honorable Dendi Nyoro, saying that people should feel this improvement of the economy in their pockets. Because the cry out there is that people have no money. Money is scarce. And prices of commodities, of course, I know that some commodities like unga, the prices have really gone down because we have to give credit where it is due. But basically, there are still things, commodities that are still very expensive. Talk of building materials, for example. Cement is still retailing at about 800 Kenya shillings in the cheapest outlet. While I think when President William Ruto came to power, cement was retailing to 500 and something Kenya shillings. You got to like twisted bars that are used for building, still very expensive. And this beats then the rules of economics that we know, like the market forces, that the law of demand and supply, that maybe not so many people are putting up buildings because of the economic, or because of the cash crunch. Yet the prices of these commodities are going up. So that's why I'm saying it defies economic principles that we know. And probably we will be able to get answers from His Excellency the President's State of the Nation address tomorrow. Right. Otherwise, it's baffling how, prices keep going up for some commodities, while actually demand is not exactly the factor that is pushing these things up. So it's something. It's a complicated economic affair.
All right. We do know that cement and clinker was, one of the areas that were hit the most with tax changes that keep on occurring. And we do know that there are a couple of amendments coming up, like the Tax Law Amendment Bill, the Tax Procedures Amendment Bill. We have the Business Laws Amendment Bill, the Public Finance Amendment Bill. When Kenyans hear policy changes and law changes, they get very anxious because they believe that means that I'm going to be paying more tax. I already don't have enough. As a leader, when your people ask you, what do these bills mean? What do you usually tell them?
Well, one thing that is sure is that most of the policies of Kenya Kwanza government, to which I belong, have raided the pockets of Kenyans. And as you rightly observed, then that's why, prices of some commodities are going up. But what we tell people, to answer your question, when people approach us as leaders, of course we tell people, because we have to inspire hope in people. We tell people that we want to believe, or we believe that things are going to be better tomorrow. The challenge then now becomes when you keep telling them that things are going to get better tomorrow and they do not improve as per maybe the expectations that we may have provoked in them. And so it's a situation, I can tell you, Hibaq, this is a very difficult time to be a leader in Kenya. Because of course people are complaining about very many things, especially because as Kenya Kwanza, we have implemented so many changes. We have introduced so many changes, of course, looking at our debt situation, looking at what we are generating from taxes, we keep going back to the pockets of wananchi. And so it's a difficult situation, but we still want to inspire hope in our people and tell them that we want to believe that things are going to be better tomorrow. And then this becomes a challenge to everyone, especially the President of the Republic of Kenya, to see to it that things improve. Because people cannot wait forever. We are here 2 years down the line, and so I think more needs to be done.
All right. Yeah. Senator, of course, you've said you're part of, the Kenya Kwanza government. Yes. You are part of that particular faction. The president has said again and again that things are going to get worse before it gets better. When does it get better? Because it's been worse for 2 years now.
That is why we are also somehow losing confidence in some of these promises, because we gave that promise towards the end of 2022 when we took over. Then we stuck to the same in 2023. Now we're in 2024, almost going to 2025, and now we are at a situation where we do not want to give more promises, where we want to also observe and see what is going to happen, because all of us are shouldering this blame, and so it's difficult. And I think I am very keen, just like any other Kenyan, to hear what the president is going to of course, state and present, so that we can be able to look at it. Of course, next week we should be debating the address that the president is going to make tomorrow. And I think I would say let's wait and see what the president will have will present. And then probably we can see whether we can be able to believe some of the things, the promises that he's going to make. And of course we compare with some of the things that have been achieved so far. But I can tell you that there have been some achievements. But I think we better discuss that after the president makes his address tomorrow.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, of course, when the economy is deteriorating, we do see that there are going to be changes, because when there's a cash crunch, there are going to be effects. We've seen a lot of, crimes happening. The rate of crimes has, increased so very much. And we've seen that femicide has taken over. Every single day we have a new case of femicide. The president just today has allocated around 100 million for that cause. What do you believe could be, some of the low-hanging fruits? If we put aside the 100 million shillings, what are some of the ways we can employ, the youth so that we can have less crimes?
Well, that is a very wide matter, Hibaq, because I think it's the responsibility of all of us, not just the president. And I don't speak for the president because, of course, I'm not the government spokesperson. But I think all of us should do what we can within our ability. And what I mean by this is we need to sensitize our youth about, in my view, for example, joining VTCs, that is vocational training centers, technical training institutes, because this is a challenge then to county governments because VTCs are devolved. But of course, TTIs, technical training institutes, are under the national government. And I can tell you, Hibaq, that government has tried in as far as that one is concerned, because at least in my county, we have a technical training institute in every constituency. And so we need to sensitize our youth, because white-collar jobs, formal jobs, our economy, of course, does not, we don't have opportunities for white-collar jobs. But if our youths are able to acquire skills in these technical training institutes, and the government, of course, should fund them more so that they can have even modern equipment for training, I think that will help sort out most of the unemployment problems that we have, because then young men and women will be able to be gainfully employed, self-employed, right. Because that is the only way. And I'm glad also that we are bringing around, we are changing our system of education to go to CBC. And if it is implemented in the right way, Hibaq, I'm an educationist, and I know that if we can be able to identify the competencies of every other child, and then we train them along the area in which they are competent, then, and especially because it is skill-oriented, we should be able to get somewhere. But that is a long-term plan. What for now government should be doing is to see to it that they sort out the issues with the Higher Education Loans Board, the new funding model, so that every student that qualifies to join university then is able to be admitted and to be able to go through their studies. And then we need also to, to see to it that we implement CBC in the right way, because like now we are going to grade 9.
Right.
And there are complaints. Still, teachers are not enough. We need more, of course, not many primary schools, because that is where we have domiciled, junior secondary schools. Not many of them have laboratories. And Hibaq, that at the end of next year, we should have been able to identify the competency of every other learner. Because when they join grade 10, that is in a secondary school, then we should be able to place them in the right pathway. Right. So without then exposing them to especially sciences, through labs and having sufficient numbers of teachers, then we may make a mistake of placing a child in a pathway where they actually do not belong. And so those are the very urgent challenges, if you ask me. But in the long run, we need to equip our young people with skills, so that, and then we also change the mentality in our people about white-collar jobs and these other jobs, manual jobs, and skills, so that everybody then embraces skills. And then we should be able, with time, with political goodwill and commitment, we should be able to be in a better position 5-10 years down the line.
Right. As we wind up, Senator, you've said that you're an educationist.
Yes.
Tomorrow, the president is going to make some changes, we hope, in different sectors, and policies could be shifted. What do you believe the president could shift within that sector?
For now we can only speculate.
What should he change?
In education, just basically the things that we have talked about. I can tell you that the new funding model, the concept is very good, but then the problem comes with what we call MTI, that is means testing instrument. And I think the president, if I were to advise him as to what he should change, maybe to subject this new funding model to more piloting, as we sort out students under the old financing model, as we pilot more, as we organize ourselves better regarding this new funding model. I think we also I would want to see him revamp, especially Moi University, because Moi University, and it happens to be in his county of origin. Of course, the president is national, but this university, everybody is crying, and I'm a graduate of that particular university. So I think there is a problem there that should be looked into. But generally, higher education, universities, how they are funded, because they are crumbling. Those are also changes. We need to see changes in this. And also the courses offered at the universities, that we do not offer courses for the sake of it. We link labor market information to training. And those are some of the changes that as an educationist, I may want to see the president maybe bring, maybe in his address tomorrow, or maybe later on.
Right. Thank you so much for joining us, Senator. Conclusively, in just one sentence, what would you say the president is going to change, say even in the health sector, when it comes to SHA and SHIFT, because it's been, a debacle that the country has been dealing with?
The same. It was not wise to halt the operations of NHIF before, SHIFT was fully implemented, because the problem we have, Kenyans are dying, because there is a gap that you're not registered under SHIFT, and NHIF is almost disbanded. We didn't have to halt the operations of NHIF. What we should have done, in my view, was have those that have still not been able to go through the transition still taken care of by NHIF, until we are sure that everybody is registered and well covered under SHIFT, because this gap has led to a lot of deaths and untold suffering to Kenyans. So that is something that the president must address because we cannot afford to continue losing lives and causing families untold sufferings because where they are supposed to pay in cash, and these are people that have made contributions to the NHIF. So that is very important. Education, health, and of course, I would want to see the president deal with the matters that were raised by the Kenya Conference of Catholic Bishops, because they are weighty matters, and any politician saying that the Catholic bishops were biased is a politician that is not helping the president. The Catholic bishops raised issues. We would want to see all of them, and they are listed, and the president is aware about the issues that the Catholic bishops raised. We would want to see those issues addressed and sorted because they are issues affecting Kenyans.
Thank you so much, Senator, for your valuable insights. Tomorrow is going to be a very interesting day. We want to see what the president is going to say. These are some of the things that we believe the president is going to be addressing. And thank you so much for joining us on the Daily Report tonight. We've touched on all matters that have been affecting the country. We've gone international as well. We've touched on Ukraine. Then we came back into the country because we needed to know how exactly the State of the Nation address is going to be affecting you and me. Have yourselves a very good night. My name is Hibaq, and good night to our sign language interpreter, Kelvin Makori, as well. Have yourselves a very lovely Wednesday.